Welcome everyone. In this video, it's a continuation of the series, the playlist that is exploring the PE or portable executable file format. This video aims to look at how the PE file format stores digital signatures. Digital signatures are quite important in that they allow for the signing of executables or DLLs so that whoever is signing them can help to kind of confer or guarantee the integrity of that code, of that executable. And then the operating system can confirm that digital signature when it goes to load, using the different certificate authorities. Finding this series on the PE file helpful? Take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button. Don't hesitate to leave a comment or question below as well. Okay, let's get started. For digital signatures, again, those can be added to PE files as a way to ensure the integrity of the code within those files. And where this information resides or how the operating system and any of our tools that are parsing are going to be able to identify that is going to start with the image optional header. And if we scroll down here just a little bit, you can see here is the full definition of the image optional header. The last member is this data directory, and this is actually an array of image data directory structures. So we can scroll down here a little bit further in the documentation to see what this will consist of. And these are going to be, these are essentially fixed entries. And why Microsoft didn't list these in order, I'm not entirely sure. But at an index of 4, or the fifth entry, we have the image directory entry security. This is the security directory. This would indicate if there's values here that there is a digital signature. So if we take a look at the image data directory structure itself, you'll see that it's an 8-byte structure, 2 D words, the virtual address, and a size. And in the remarks section, you can see that this also will give us an indication that the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth element here is the certificate table address and size. It also provides these fixed offsets. And so sometimes you'll see when you might be looking at shellcode or something that's parsing the PE file, it's going to reference maybe the export table. That'd be a very common one. Going to reference the export table at a fixed offset from the beginning of the optional header. And that's how that code will know that, for example, the export table or any of these other structures that it's looking for is always going to be located there relative to the beginning of that. So just a little side note if you've ever run into that. Something also to point out and to be aware of with this structure is that it defines a virtual address and a size. Now, many of these different structures are going to be loaded into memory as part of the executable and the operating system loading it for execution. And so they are going to be at an RVA, a virtual address, and then of course the corresponding size. Now, the security directory is a little bit different in that the security or certificate entry here, that's actually going to be a raw offset in the file because if you're not familiar with overlays, essentially the certificate gets stored as an overlay. And I have a video here in this playlist that covers that in much more detail. But that means that the certificate then typically isn't going to be loaded into memory. And so in order for, and really doesn't need to be, right? Because the operating system, if it's using the certificate, it's got to parse that while it's on disk and then determine if it's still valid before deciding to load it for execution. And so that certificate stored as an overlay, which means that the virtual address entry in that data directory structure is a raw file offset. Okay, something that's going to be new for this video is I was very graciously given a license for Malcat. This is not just a hex editor, but a binary analysis software that's long been on my list of things to explore. And this just prompted me to do that. So full disclosure for everyone. I haven't been using it very extensively up until now. And so I've been, again, it's been something I've wanted to do. And that I guess I just needed that license to be enough of a motivation to start doing it. So objective achieved in providing that to me. So what I wanted to do is start using this with more and more of my videos, just to kind of show you some of the differences with this tool in comparison to some of the other, binary analysis, hex editor, PE parsing utilities that are out there. I don't want to give the impression that this is another hex editor. As you can see by looking at the web page here for this product, it does a lot. There is disassembly, some potential for decompilation, automatic embedded file extraction, It's got integration with Kappa. If you join the most recent live stream, we talked about Kappa, so that's pretty awesome. So there's a lot of really cool features here that I'm really interested and excited to begin exploring. And so this is going to be a relatively minor usage of it, but I think still it's interesting and important to explore, how my previous workflow could be impacted by using and exploring other tools. So let's get into it here. For the sample, I'm going to grab this off the Malware Bazaar. If you browse the Malware Bazaar, you can use the tag signed. And you'll see that right there. So I just wanted to find something that was signed and upload it to the Malware Bazaar. So downloaded this sample. I'll make sure to get the URL or at least the hash here in the video description. And going to go ahead and start with the 010, which is typically where I would start. Now you'll see that with 010, right here we have the win certificate. So that's your first indication that there's a certificate associated with this executable. We don't necessarily have to parse all of the structures here, but because this is a video about the format, we're going to explore those structures. You can expand the certificate. I also want to point out, this is where this begins, the certificate begins. It's at offset 40EC00. That's the raw offset from the beginning of the file, because we're just looking at this in the hex editor. We're not looking at this in memory. If we look at the structure mapping here in 010, it gives us, looks like 4 bytes to begin the beginning of the structure, what it's calling the length. You can see these are going to be highlighted up above here. We've got the revision, which then 010 parses for us. We've got the certificate type. And then finally, there's just the raw certificate. And that raw certificate then starts at this byte hex 30 and continues. I'll just scroll down here and confirm. There we go. Yep, continues all the way to the end of the file there. You might be able to look here in just the ASCII output. Let me get back to the beginning. Well, here, this is good. You'll see things like digiCert, or sometimes you'll see strings and URLs that are indicating that it is a certificate and related to the signing of the executable. There you can see, again, some basic information there in the ASCII, just part of the digital signature itself. So that can be another indication, although it's kind of hard to parse out anything real formal here at this point. Now, if I back up, we can go and figure out the structures, again, that support this in the PE file format. We have under the image NT headers, the optional header. Expand that, scroll down. We'll have the data directory, or an array of image data directory structures. Here we have 010, it calls it security. And again, this virtual address, this is not a virtual address, this is the raw offset into the file. You'll see that matches up with what we just saw, 40EC00, which is where that overlay begins, and then there's the size. In fact, it looks like maybe there's even an issue with this template, because 010 calculates virtual addresses into raw file offsets for you, and that's incorrect. So it looks like there's a little problem there, but nothing that we can't work our way around. So if we went to 40EC00, which we've already been to, but since we know that's the raw offset, we can just go to that address, and there's the beginning of our overlay or our digital certificate. Now, 010 hasn't quite made it clear that this is an overlay at this point in time either, but knowing that a digital certificate is going to be stored as an overlay, you can connect those dots once you know. Okay, for Malcat though, I actually had 2 versions open, Malcat Lite and Malcat Professional. I want to use the Lite version because that's the one that everyone's going to be able to download. You don't need a license, it's the free. And I found that for this very simple use case, I didn't need any of the features of the Professional. So I'm just going to go ahead, get into the Lite version here. I already had it open, so I'm going to double click on the recent files. That's pretty helpful. And then the UI maybe initially throws a lot at you, but I think it's really quick and easy to digest this information. The first thing that stood out to me is just this certificate is not only identified right here, but all the information now is parsed from it. So we have things like the issuer, the subject, the validity, the serial number, pieces of information that could help to create a YAR rule or to do some live hunt or retro hunt on places like VirusTotal. So that's really helpful, and that it's all just integrated and presented here right up front in this binary. You'll notice there's this layout column. I also thought this was pretty neat. Let me scroll down a little bit here. And here we have the overlay clearly identified. A lot of reversing tools will have this this sort of mini map or thumbnail view of the binary and then its mapping or understanding of it. So we can click on that, and you'll see that there is our overlay 40EC00. And off to the side here, it's kind of reminds me of IDA or even Ghidra, and that we have the section name, or in this case, the fact that it's an overlay provided next to the raw offset. So that's also quite helpful. Navigation is quick and easy with the forward and backward arrows here. And then if we wanted to, look at the kind of the raw structure, we can also just scroll down a little ways here. You'll see that we have the data directories. And here is item 5 at index 4. And it is properly identified as an offset to this location and this size. Right. So again, just the fact that there's a value here would indicate that there's a digital cert that is attached to this particular file as an overlay. And we can click on that and go to this location if we wanted to and extract the certificate or whatever we needed to do. So kind of up to you what you're interested in terms of your analysis. But probably the most important or the most helpful is to get this information right here out of the certificate itself. There's also over to the side here, this little data structure. And this is also going to have, you see, as you select essentially the structures that are going to be utilized to understand the PE file format. So I selected the optional header, which is where our data directories live, and that populates this kind of structure view below. And now we can scroll down to the data directory, and it can expand and contract that. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to make that scroll so fast. Here again, we just have another view into our certificate table. So all in all, everything that I would normally do with O&O, plus it makes it even, I think, quicker and faster to parse and triage and analyze that particular binary. So hopefully you got a little bit of both here, introduction to maybe a tool you haven't used before, but then also in the focus of this was just to identify how to detect that a PE file is signed and where that signature lives. So hopefully you found this helpful. If so, please like and subscribe. And don't forget to leave comments if you have any suggestions for better ways to utilize tools such as Malcat. Thanks for watching and keep exploring.